Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Welcome to Musical Talk this week. I hope everyone is coping during this very interesting time. I am virtually sitting here with a friend of mine called Preston Nyman. Hi Preston, how are you?
I'm good. Nick, how are you?
I'm coping, I think. You're an actor, you're a musical theatre fan as well, and you're a magician, and your father is about to go into Hello Dolly, and lots of other hilarious things like that. But we met through a production called Ghost Stories, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah, a year ago, if you can believe that.
Oh God, yeah.
It's actually probably a year. It's probably a year today or something like that, because it would have been, it would have been in April that we met last year. Yeah, so it could well be a year today.
I think my Facebook told me it was a year, sort of 2 days ago or something like that. Because
we should have marked the occasion by recording then. We just missed.
Yes, and the lyric Hammersmith had a wonderful "Are you brave enough to book yet?" or whatever, kind of written on the doors, or.
Yes.
Which came up as a picture. But anyway, I mean, we have really nothing to talk about. I'm just trying to entertain our listeners, and you're a wonderful talker. Tell me about your relationship with theatre and musical theatre and magic and everything like that.
Well, my relationship with theatre is, as you mentioned, Dad is an actor. My sister's an actor too. So it's a family thing, and we've spent a lifetime sort of around watching Dad do work as an actor, but then also, going to see everything. So my relationship with theatre is just absolute overexposure to it, which I'm very fortunate to have had. And with magic, it's a slightly similar thing. It's a family business still. Me and my dad both do it, obviously to varying sort of levels. So they're all childhood things that I haven't really grown out of and hope to never grow out of.
I mean, your father is very famous for he's Andy Nyman. We saw him in Fiddle on the Roof. And wonderful performer. And hello to Andy if he's there at your house. He's a mentalist, isn't he? And Darren Brown, he works with Darren Brown a lot. Darren Brown said Andy Nyman is the greatest mentalist in the world. How did you grow up and not lie?
Well, that's actually that's a question that no one's ever asked. How did I grow up and not lie? I think you're exposed to a different side of it. I think growing up around magic is so. I suppose there's two ways of saying magic's based on secrets. The first one is being like how amazing you get to keep these secrets, and the flip side of that is saying magic's based on lying, which it very much is. But I think if you're used to that, then it loses its power. I think having to keep secrets and methods and bits and bobs like that, because you're just so used to it. So I think probably, again, overexposure to lying probably meant that it was never as tempting for me.
The correct answer, Preston, was I never lied.
But if I lied, I knew I had to hide it well. But actually, I never lied. That's the answer.
I don't believe you. So
what's your deal with? Actually, I'm going to ask you a question if that's all right.
Yeah.
Which is music a family thing for you?
Good God, no. I had a piano growing up. Well, I had a keyboard growing up as a child, 2 or 3 year old. And from about 3 onwards, I was picking out TV tunes on the keyboard, just single little notes.
Sure.
And then my father he wanted to learn piano as well, so he metaphorically went out and bought a piano. And from then on, I had a toy theatre growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to create music for plays. And I had a favourite note, which was the low C on the piano, which I coloured in with a marker, which no one was very impressed with. But there's no musical talent anywhere in my family, apart from my great aunt, who was once a wonderful concert pianist in Sydney.
Wow.
In Melbourne. But yeah, that's it. Some would say there is still no musical talent in my family, because I sure as hell can't sing. I'm not a great pianist either. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Is the C still your favourite note?
Yes.
What is it about it?
It was just rich and resonant, and it was the lowest. I don't know. I just because the only notes I knew were C, so
Sure.
it was the lowest one that I knew. And as you say, no one's ever really asked me that question before. So thank you, Preston. What musicals do you remember as a youth?
Well, Spot's Big Band, again at the Lyric Hammersmith, based on the Spot books by Eric Hill, is it? The Spot the Dog is probably the first musical I saw.
Wow, I would never get... I mean, usually you get Les Mis or Phantom or Cats, but you're going really local here, aren't you?
I'm going local with a tour of Spot's Big Band that was on at the Lyric. I think that was the first musical I saw. My biggest memory of seeing a musical is we went to New York in 2004, and it was the first time I'd been, and saw Little Shop of Horrors, the first Broadway version of it, that I think was potentially still in previews, but I might have just sort of embellished that in my head. And it's still my favourite musical. I think maybe because it was the first one I'd seen on Broadway, which is just like amazing. But I'd already loved the films, then to see the show live. So that is kind of the all-time, the number one for me in terms of like memories of seeing a show, but also just it's the best show ever written.
Which is funny because hopefully in this very episode, I'm also going to be having an interview with Alan Menken, which is quite exciting. But I can't. That hasn't been planned yet. But it's in the works. I love Little Shop of Horrors. It was a film that I watched. I think it's a perfect film, and
it is.
I'm hearing rumours of it being remade, which is fine, but it won't have the craft that 87 film had with the puppets.
Yeah, I think that's I've never ever seen a CG character, and I love all forms of animation, but obviously when things are totally CG, when you're watching Toy Story or whatever, you buy into it, but a sort of CGI character in a real world, which is what it looks like they'll do with it, and I've never seen that and bought into it. Whereas the puppets, they're in the room, you can't. The connection to them is so strong because you can feel that they're there, you sense it in your gut. And with a lot of computer animation, I think you don't get that it doesn't feel anywhere near as raw. So yeah, it will never ever live up to that film. That is a perfect film.
So you saw Little Shop of Horrors with Kerry Butler, is that correct?
Kerry Butler, Hunter Foster, Douglas Sills, I think, was Orin. Yeah, and just like wore out the CD of that version. The CD, which has a brilliant, and actually, I know that you'll appreciate this because it's a slight musical theatre theme parky crossover. Not a theme park thing, but does tick that box. The cover of the CD is that brilliant sort of raised 3D cover.
Yeah, I have it on my shelf somewhere.
It's brilliant. I've never seen another CD with that sort of cover.
Embossed is the term you're looking for, I think. I was so excited when that CD came out. I accidentally ordered 2 at the same time when I was at university, just to date us all. So you saw Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway, and that was had you never seen shows in the West End before, or was that the first thing that you kind of remember being gripped by?
I'd seen shows in the West End. What would I have seen at that point in terms of like musicals? I don't know. I'd have seen a couple of musicals at that point, but there was something about the excitement of being in New York and and actually I've since been in, it was the Virginia Theatre at the time, but now it is, what the hell is it called now? But I saw Groundhog Day there and Mean Girls there, and I still get quite like butterfly walking into that theatre knowing that that's where Little Shop of Horrors was. So I think it was just the excitement of like seeing my first ever Broadway show and it being already my favourite film. It was a perfect storm. But yeah, I'd have probably seen Mamma Mia before then. I think Dad had a friend in Mamma Mia, so we went to that. But I'd have seen a couple of big musicals pre then.
My first Broadway show was The Addams Family.
What did you think? I've never seen it still.
Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
And they've rewritten it since, so what you were to see now is completely different from what I saw. But I've said this many, many times in the podcast. They completely got the wrong end of the stick with The Addams Family. You do not make Wednesday want to be normal. That the whole thing with them is that they shouldn't think they're freaks. They think they're normal, and they think the rest of the world are freaks. That's what's so clever about The Addams Family, and they completely got that wrong. It was great. It was great to see Nathan Lane on stage. The cast were great. Bebe Neuwirth was wonderful. The songs are fun, but it just missed the mark. And but thankfully they realised that and they made some changes.
Have you seen the version that tours?
I haven't. No, I must.
But that's the changed version, right?
Yes, yes.
That's the rewritten one. I always feel like I should see it, but I just never get around to it.
And there's a whole article in the New York Times about it, which if you want to read about it, you can see why they made the changes and what drove them to do it and what a disaster the original production was. And then I saw the same trip, I saw Beauty and the Beast, which is always a wonderful show.
Oh yeah, again another one that I'm hoping to see when it comes back. I've never ever seen it.
I hope it comes. I don't think we'll ever see it in its original form ever again. It was amazing at the Dominion.
Sure.
The Dominion in London is a massive, massive stage, and Disney spent £8 million, which is a lot of time for 1997 or whatever it was, to make it even bigger for this production.
To make the stage bigger?
Yeah, they added more to the back.
Whoa.
If you can imagine that. And I believe the London production was the most elaborate one they ever did. And I love that show so much. We also, Preston and I, have an affinity for Disney, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, a big Disney shared love. Yeah, definitely.
Now, last week I spoke with David about Disney Plus. Do you have Disney Plus, Preston?
I do. Yeah, I bit the bullet and I got it. What do you think of it?
I really like it. I mean, we said on the podcast how musical theatre friendly Disney have always been, and they're not. They're still being very generous with this. I've enjoyed the Imagineering documentary is wonderful. I have enjoyed the thing called Encore, which we talked about as well, where
is brilliant.
Yeah, but I like all the kind of random 1960s musicals that they have on there that people have forgotten about, like The Happiest Millionaire, for example. Who remembers that, by the Sherman Brothers?
There are so many of those weird, they're sort of when Disney sort of branches out into live action.
Yeah, I mean, for every Mary Poppins, there's about 25 mediocre Sherman Brothers Disney film musicals.
Oh, big time. Have you watched Waking Sleeping Beauty?
I have, yes. Let's talk about that, because that's a documentary about the time in the... it was from the sort of early 80s, wasn't it? All the way to the late 90s? Ending with The Lion King.
Yeah, it covers that period. But I'd obviously heard about it because I'd never seen it, so I was absolutely thrilled that it was on Disney Plus. It was terrific, I thought.
Have you seen The Boys?
I've always slightly put off watching it because I think it will upset me too much. But now it's very available for me to watch. I will watch it.
I found Sleeping Beauty. I found Waking Sleeping Beauty more upsetting than The Boys.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know.
The Boys is more uplifting, and Waking Sleeping Beauty is all about the politics going on behind closed doors and Howard Ashman's death and things. And The Boys is about the Sherman Brothers, and very little is known about them. So it's nice to have a documentary that explores their questionable working relationship, you could say. But it reminds us how amazing their songs were.
Oh, beyond belief. To write one, but I think the same about Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. If you look at one of those, if you'd have written one of those songs, you could A, probably retire, and B, retire knowing that you've created something amazing. Yeah. Let alone, I mean, how many hits did the Sherman Brothers write that are still, popular today?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Mary Poppins, the show, when it came back, and there were a lot of grown-ups in the audience, which was lovely, but there were a lot of sort of 4-5-year-olds who, on paper, should not know these songs.
No.
Because these songs are 60 years old, and they are singing along. That is the power of not only Disney, but the Sherman Brothers' incredibly annoying, frustrating melodies that get in your head.
But just it's banger after banger, and it's spanned 3, if not 4 generations. You're right, 4-year-olds. We think, how do you know that song?
It's just Disney, innit?
Yeah, I suppose it's also just absolutely ramming it down your throat. But they're unbelievable songs. But that was actually something that Waking Sleeping Beauty made me really think about when you're seeing bits of Beauty and the Beast and all that sort of era of animation. To think, God, these films are 30 years old now, and they're still relevant.
Well, look at When You Wish Upon a Star. One of the nicest songs probably ever written, and that's how old? 80 years old?
Yeah, it's got to be 70, 80 years old.
90 years old. I'm really enjoying the Mickey shorts also on Disney Plus, which are really cute. They got songs in them, and also we're linking it back to the new ride that's just opened in Disney's Hollywood Studios, of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is the world's hardest title of any ride to say. But yeah, lots of lovely options on Disney Plus. I mean, continuing on from the discussion that we had in last week's episode, what other musicals have you been watching on streaming?
What other musicals have I been watching? I rewatched Oklahoma because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, and I did not a musical, but when NT Live, when they put up One Man Two Governors, I watched that again because I'm a big fan of that show. What other musicals have I watched? I mean, I'm listening to them constantly, but I don't know if I've actually streamed any since being in quarantine. Have you?
I watched the 25th anniversary of the Les Mis concert.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to watch the Chichester thing, Mrs. Harris or something like that.
Yes, they've put up, haven't they?
Which I'm looking forward to seeing. Less interested in the Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff that he's putting up because I've seen all of those. They're not new to me. We said last week, we have access to Cats, we have access to Joseph. These aren't new productions.
They're all. Oh, isn't Joseph still on Netflix? I feel like it's a nice idea, but it's also like anyone that wants to see that show probably owns a DVD of it or can find. It'd be more interesting to see versions of those shows we haven't seen. I might watch Jesus Christ Superstar if that's still up.
The Arena production with Tim Minchin.
Yeah, I kind of went into that production expecting not to like it, and remember quite enjoying it. So I might give that a watch.
Go
beat for beat.
What are you looking forward to seeing when the theatre gets back to normal?
Hello, Dolly.
Yeah.
That's the only right answer. Now, what am I looking forward to seeing? All joking aside, I am looking forward to seeing Hello, Dolly, because it will be such a sigh of relief when that happens. Not if, when that happens. Other things, I always was quite interested in seeing Anne Juliet, and I never got around to it.
Great fun.
Yeah, I've heard great. It's not necessarily my sort of thing, but I've heard kind of from everyone that it's really good fun. So I'll try and go and see that again, if and when, hopefully, when it comes back. Other than that, it actually really made me think. There was a song from Come From Away on the radio the other day, and I did think what a brilliant show that was. I'd sort of forgotten how good it was. So I will probably go and see that again.
Yes.
Other than that, it's tricky because everything's such a question mark. Things that I'd planned to book for that now you're like, well, who knows? So I think as soon as it comes back, no matter what's on, I'm just going to try and binge as much as I can of live theatre. I actually really like, I don't know if you've been to the Boulevard Theatre, the newer one in Soho.
I haven't. No, tell me about that.
It's amazing. They built where Raymond Revue used to be. I think it's Paul Raymond's granddaughter that is running it. They built a revolving, again, slightly 60 theme park box. The whole theatre can revolve. It's tiny. It's like a studio space. But it can be revolved, so it can be reconfigured in a million different ways. And most nights they have a show on, and both shows I've seen there have been excellent. Ghost Quartet, which again I was not expecting to like, but I did like it, and The Sunset Limited. Both configured totally differently. But then the show will finish, and an hour later they'll have a concert or a comedy gig. And they'll find, the whole. I saw a show and a concert on the same night there once, and an hour after the show finished, the whole room was totally different. The layout, and it doesn't feel like an art centre. It feels like a theatre. But they do really good work, and they're new. So whatever's on at the Boulevard when this is over, I'll go and see. Would urge everyone else to go and see too. Is there anything you're excited about?
Well, it reminds me of this other musical that is meant, I mean, obviously question mark is heavily above it right now, but it's meant to be going to this new 1,100 seat theatre in the Docks, and it's going to hold a musical called Soldier of Orange, the musical, with going back to Disney and specifically looking at the Carousel of Progress. It borrows on that idea of let's not revolve the set, but revolve the audience around the set, I think. Or it might just be a revolving set. But it's a 360-degree musical. And it's being built in a specifically built 1,100-seat theatre, which is exciting.
Have you seen footage of it?
Yes, I saw a YouTube video, and it looks very European, I'll say that.
Very, very European, but kind of breathtaking.
Yes. Not in a good way either, from what I've seen. But I'm sure it'll be... It has an airplane in it, which is always exciting.
Yeah, an airplane, a water stage. I mean, I think it couldn't be more elaborate and expensive, I'm sure, which will be a fun process at the moment.
Yes, I think if it opens, Preston, that's a show we should see together, because I think we would get a kick out of it for many reasons.
100%, yeah.
And I'd love to see that. I want to get back to Mary Poppins. Obviously, I'm looking forward to Hello Dolly. Purely not for reasons of, I think Your Father's Wonderful, but I've never seen Hello Dolly on stage.
Oh, it's a brilliant show.
And one of our very early guests on the podcast was Jerry Herman, the late great Jerry Herman, years and years and years ago. So it'd be nice to finally see a Jerry Herman show on stage. I saw, I think, not Mame. What's the one Betty Buckley did at the Charing Cross Theatre a couple of years ago? I can't remember, but I saw her in a musical. I'm dreadful with names. But
I'm trying to think what it would have been. Don't remember it.
Oh, let me Google it like my Google overlords. I as I said last time, I'm just looking forward to getting back in a theatre once all this is open. I don't care what I see; it's going to be electric.
Yeah. And I think it. I can't quite work out yet whether it will be terrifying sitting in a room with 700 other people, shoulder to shoulder, or whether it will just be, joyous. I think it depends kind of how quickly not to bring the conversation back to the virus like every conversation at the moment, but I think depending on how quickly we can act on that, it will either just be the most exciting, lovely thing being all together in a room, or it will be absolutely cripplingly terrifying.
Yeah.
Hopefully the former.
It's going to be strange, but also be kind of a nervous excitement, I think.
Yeah.
And Dear World was the name of the show that I saw Betty Buckley in February 2013. But
yeah, Dear World is ends with but that's Dear World, isn't it? No, am I making it up?
I can't remember it that well, but you're probably right, Preston.
Well, no, definitely, yeah, to see one of his shows kind of, and I think a massive production will be very, very exciting, and a new production.
Yes.
So it'll be good, I think. And it's the most beautiful show. The heart of it is really special, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we need as much fun shows as possible coming up, and I'm looking forward to Hairspray with Michael Ball and Paul Merton coming to London, which is always exciting. It was a favourite of mine, that score. And hopefully it's looking unlikely, but hopefully Sister Act with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, so I booked for that, and I'm slightly getting stressed that I haven't received an email about. It can't be happening, surely.
I've heard that Whoopi Goldberg is not going to do it. Now, whether they still do it and not have Whoopi Goldberg in it, I don't know. All will be revealed. I mean, it's such a difficult time for all the theatres, and we are thinking of you, and we are excited to come back into the theatres. At times like this, we need Ambassador Theatre Group and Lloyd Webber Theatres and Cameron Theatres to kind of really step it up and make it as amazing for the performers and the audience as possible, because we don't, we need this when we're allowed to.
Yeah. I think it's a really sounds pretentious to say it's an essential thing, but I do think the impact it has on people's lives when theatre is good and accessible, I think, is enormous. So hopefully there'll be some industry left when this is all over, if not, something that will grow out of the ashes of this.
Yes. And dear listener, if you do find yourself at Chessington Wild Adventures, do get on Tomb Blaster there, because Preston and I worked together on that new version of the attraction. I did some new music, and Preston is the voice you hear in the station. It's a bit. I'm
sending you off on your way. Yeah, Nick's music is fantastic for it.
Well, that's very kind. But yeah, that's another little discussion here on Musical Talk, just to kind of get people entertained and excited for when the theatre's open again. Anything you want to add, Preston, as an addendum?
I think just, but like, obviously, I would not advise to book for anything at the moment, because who knows. But I think as soon as you feel comfortable to book for something, just do it. And not even, I saw a tweet the other day that was saying about really, it's important to like throw a lot of money into it. And I think it's just book a £20 seat at the top or whatever it is. But I really think that it's an industry that survived this long, and I think it will fall on us all to really try and boost it when this is over. So if there's something you've been holding off from seeing, I would really advise you to just book a ticket and go and see it, because you'll have fun and also know that you're working to keep the industry alive, which is essential.
Yeah. Preston, thank you so much for appearing on Musical Talk. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon, because you're only down the road from me. That'd be nice.
Yes.
And I will wish you well, wish all your family well, and we'll see you on stage soon.
Thank you so much.
For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.